I'm Julie Herman of J. Brick Holtz and Lazy Girl Designs, and welcome back to the Gravity Sew Along. Now that we have cut all of our pieces for month 7, it's time to begin piecing our blocks. If you have not yet seen the cutting video, the link can be found in the caption below. I suggest you start there. And we are beginning this month with something that should be very familiar at this point. We did it last month and we've done it a few times, which is 2 triangles onto a center hexagon. So we just take our triangle, flip it on, and sew from there to this valley. And I'll repeat to add the other one on the other side. And this month we have a couple of different units. First one is being a triangle to a diamond. So I'm going to take my D triangles and my E diamonds and sew them together. You want to make sure that you're sewing it on the correct side, because this is not an opportunity where we have a mirror image. We need to make a specific shape. So follow the directions on the bottom of 26 and it will fit perfectly. Your triangle should fit perfectly right on top of your diamond. You can align your notch corner right up there. And we are again sewing this month with our same Scant 1/4 inch seam that we've been sewing with, which is just 1 thread over from 1/4 inch. And that makes it so that when we open our piece and press it open, it perfectly measures exactly what we need it to measure. And now I'm going to jump to red for a moment so that I can show you the next step. So this is the A and D combo, and then this is the D and E combo. And we are going to be adding these on either side. And this is an opportunity where you may want to blunt the points of your triangles. This diamond will show you where this one lines up over here, and that may be enough. But if you'd like, you can go ahead and blunt that point. I'll show you what that looks like. So if you want to go ahead and blunt that point to help with alignment, you can simply take your hexagon ruler and line it up over the piece. And it's okay that it's pieced. We're just going to make sure to line up this edge and this edge with the 2 edges of our piece. And then we can perfectly cut off this tiny triangle to help us with our alignment. Okay. So now that we have that trimmed off, you will see now we don't worry about if we're too high or too low. It perfectly lines up there. And then this one will line up here. And you can go ahead and pin in the middle there if you'd like. Your seam allowance that is pressed open, they should all overlap on top of each other. And then you know you are in the right place. I'm just going to go ahead and sew this without a pin. Feel free to pin if you prefer. And a stiletto can be helpful to keep everything nice and where it should be. So that is what that looks like there. I'm going to take this off now and take my other one, and it's going to go down here. And I didn't blunt my point here, but that's okay. I know where it lines up down here. So let me show you what it looks like if you don't blunt it. It's just going to hang off, and sewing from the beginning of our valley, if everything is cut right, should yield us a perfect piece. And there we go. So now we have the middle section of our block complete. And I'm going to hop back over to green for a moment. And the next 2 steps, we are building this really cool large triangle that's going to go on either side. And we're going to build it in stages. So in step 4, we build this. In step 5, we build this, and then we put it together in step 6. The first step is step 4. And one at a time, we're going to sew these triangles on. And we will not be able to sew them both on at the same time without doing a little bit of finger pressing. So let me show you what that looks like. And this is very similar to the diamond and the triangle that we did at the beginning with the D and the E in step 2. So after you have the first triangle on, we need to go ahead and add the second one here. So we'll need to quickly press this open a little bit so it'll lay flat. And this is where the Violet Craft seam roller you have seen me use many times now really does come in handy, so I don't have to get my iron going just for a tiny piece. So So, and I don't need to worry about the whole seam at this point, just that part right there. That's just flat enough that I can put my other triangle on. I can line up my blunt part right here, and then my triangle will overlap on top of my seam allowance triangle that was created by this piece right here. And I'll repeat that with the other one. And this is the piece I will end up with. 2 triangles sewn onto a diamond. And then step 5, we are going to have diamonds on either side of a triangle. So the step 4 was 1 diamond, 2 triangles. Now we're working with 2 diamonds, 1 triangle. And we're going to start by sewing these 2 together. Blunt points together, makes alignment really easy. And then the triangle will overlap a little bit down here. I'll show you again what that looks like. And just as we did with the previous one, we're going to need to do a quick little press so that we'll be able to sew the next piece on. So again, the seam roller comes nice and handy. Then we will take the second diamond and flip it over, and the blunt will line up there. And I do have a sharp point here. That doesn't bother me. If it does, by now you know how to go ahead and blunt that corner. I encourage you to do whatever is going to help you be the most successful and the most accurate. So once you have sewn that, it's going to look like, in red, it's going to look like this. And then our next step is to sew the 2 of these together. This is step 6, and this is best accomplished with the hang pin. I have shown it to you a couple times, but I will show it to you again. Going to take our pin and insert it right here at the exact point where all of our pieces come together. And then right here at the exact point where all our pieces come together. And we're going to have our pieces hug each other. And it's very important that this pin is perpendicular to the fabric. You don't want it angled one way or the other, because then things will shift and not be lined up the way that we want them to be lined up. So once that pin is hanging there, hence hang pin, and is nice and perpendicular, you can take 2 additional pins and place 1 on either side. And then you can go ahead and remove the hang pin. And the last part of this trick is we're just going to sew right now about 1/2 inch on either side of the intersection. That way, if anything is off, we can just take it out, and it's just a handful of stitches to take out, not the entire length of the seam. I find that this really leads, for me, to the most accuracy, because if I have a problem, it's much easier to quickly fix it. So let's see how this looks. Take these pins out, and that looks awesome. So now I will go ahead and sew the length of this seam to finish this section. And no need for any more pins at this point, and no need to take any of that stitching out. Just kind of stays in there as basting. I'm just going to sew nice and slow directly over that stitching. You can see that I'm using white. It's kind of a creamy thread today, just because it's best for demonstrating for you. But if I was sewing my final block and I was not recording, I would go ahead and be using a red thread that would blend in much better with my fabrics. So now we have this, and you can get your iron turned on and go ahead and get it pressed very nicely to end up with this. And then the final step of this block is to sew this onto here. And want to make sure that my orientation is correct. And in this case, that means one of these fabrics, this one, happens to be the same one from here. That's E, and that's the one I want furthest away. So if E is very close to itself, we're not aligned correctly. I want E away from itself. Now I do need to press these. Ideally, if I was not recording, I would turn my iron on and press these nice and flat before tackling a seam with this many intersections, but I think I can get them flat enough for you right now. We are going to sew this to this, and then after I get this one pressed repeat to add this one over here, and then that will complete my entire red block. So for piecing this here, these are already blunt, which is great. And I don't pin often, but I do suggest pinning at this stage. I just find there's a lot of things going on, and my alignment is best usually when I pin at this stage. So my first thing I'm going to line up is this blunt point along this 120-degree angle. And then I'm going to repeat over in this corner here with this on top of this 120-degree angle. And then I have two more places where I want things to line up, which is right here and right here. And I'm going to take advantage of these little triangles when they are there, my little dog ears, because these two are going to line up perfectly on top of each other. And then over here I only have one, but I do have a pressed open seam allowance on this side. So the corner of this pressed open seam allowance is going to line up with this corner of this dog ear triangle. And this side of the triangle is going to create a line here that'll continue down. Landmarks are helpful. And then this seam, since I have a lot of intersections, I am definitely going to sew nice and slow. And if you're worried about alignment, I don't suggest backstitching at the beginning and the end, because that would be more to take out. But if you feel pretty confident at this point, you can backstitch at the beginning and the end. Nice and slow. Use the stiletto. Take out the pins as you go. There we go. And that looks like it lined up pretty good. And so did that. And now this point is a nice 1/4 inch in, which means it will look great when we eventually go to assemble our quilt. So as I mentioned, I will go ahead, press everything. So this one on this side, and then repeat all the steps with my green piece as well to finish both of my blocks. Thanks for watching. If this video was helpful for you, be sure to like it, leave a comment below, and subscribe to the channel. Show us your progress on your gravity blocks in our Facebook group. We'd love to see how you're coming along with your quilt. The link to the Facebook group is below. I'll be back here in the next video to show you how to do your cutting for block 8.